limited to professional users. They are convertible, but not for private use. In 2018, there are 75 local currencies in France that represent 3.3 million euros with more than 37,000 private users who pay currencies to more than 10,000. Among these currencies, the euro has a special place. It represents 30% of the total money supply of the local currencies in France. So it's very heavy in the French dynamic. The euro circulates in the northern Basque country. It's the red place there. It's a territory. The Basque country is a territory that is divided between France and Spain, and the northern Basque country is the part of the Basque country that is located in France. So we have 1 million euskos in circulation, more than 1 million now. It was launched in 2013. And it quickly became the first local currency in France. The first year, it was the first local currency. Then the digitization happened in 2017 for private users with a payment card called Eusko card. And with the digitization, the Eusko was able to take the lead in Europe. So it surpassed the Chingauer in Germany and the Bristol pound in England after the digitization process. With this contribution, and now we have more than 1 million. With this contribution, we seek to identify the main stages in the development of the euro and to formulate hypotheses on its success factors. The idea is to replace the digitization in a broader interpretative context, so try to understand how the digitization was able to make the euro the first local currency in Europe by identifying other factors. First, I am going to describe the euro's trajectory, and then we will try to identify the success factor of the euro with a specific importance of the associative and cooperative movements in the Basque country, the organizational model of the euro, and a first point, it's not apparent here, is the digitization process. Well, when we look at the euro's trajectory, we see first that this local currency had a powerful takeoff. It was, I already said it, but it was the first local currency in France the year of its launch. So at the end of 2013, it was already the more important local currency in France, with 245,000 euros in circulation and more than 3,000 individual members. We see like a strong dynamic in the beginning, and the growth continued the following year, so in 2014, despite a decline in the number of individual members. So between the first year and the second year, the number of members declined, because some people supported the euro the first year, but the following year they just forgot to renew their membership. But despite this problem, the growth continued in 2014. In 2015 and 2016, we had a relative slowdown, but the growth rate remained quite high, around 20% per year. What we see is the digitization for individual members allowed an acceleration in the growth of the euro from 2017. The digitization for private users happened in March of 2017, and we see a new acceleration in the growth rate of the amount in circulation. It was a double annual growth rate, almost 40% between 2017 and 2018. We have to say that since 2014, the professional members had the possibility to make electronic transfers. But by this time, the part of electronic money was around 27%. After the digitization for individual members, we see that the digital money took the lead and surpassed the paper notes. It's more than 60% now. Now the volume of notes is stable around 350,000 to 400,000 euros, and the increase of the volume in circulation is due to digital money. This is what we see from 2017. The other phenomenon is that the rate of reconversion in euro from professional, so the reconversion from Yersko to euros, has decreased since the Yersko card was introduced. So this idea, the decrease in the reconversion suggests that maybe the digitization for individual members allowed some way a densification in exchanges between the professionals. So this is the descriptive part of the dynamics. Now we want to present some factors that could explain the success of the Yersko. The first element is the density of associative and cooperative movement in the Basque Country. The Yersko is part of a broader dynamic, a dense network of associative and cooperative organizations that work together to promote an ecological transition and to support the local economy. We identify, and Julia Milanesi specifically identifies, three components in this alternative ecosystem, of which the Yersko is a member. The first element is what he calls the first wave of economic and social innovation. It's a group of organizations that were created in the 70s by activists from the nationalist circles, Basque activists, Basque nationalists. This first wave is centered on the ideal of endogenous economic local development. These organizations, we find them in a diversity of sectors, such as cooperatives in wood production, or cooperatives for electricity production, social finance, etc. The second component is agricultural, and it's organized around a structure that is called EHLG, which is Euskal Herriko Laborantza Ganbara. It's an alternative agricultural chamber specific to this territory. It was created in 2005, and its creation was a very important event for the territory, because it created a conflict with the central state, with the French government. And when the activists created the alternative agricultural chamber, the government accused them of stealing the name, the official administrative name of agricultural chamber. And this conflict was a moment of structuration and created links and bounding different organizations and activists. The third dimension is the most recent component, appeared in the 2010. It's organized around one organization called BC, which means life. the BC is an alter globalization movement, and around BC we see the creation of different organizations in the alternative mobilities, alternative energies, repair coffees, and other organizations that work together for the transition. The EUSCO is part of this third movement. The EUSCO was some way created in this soil of alter globalization movement. All these dimensions and these ways have in common the fact that they defend the Basque language called Euskara, and this is also some way of bonding them together to one objective. The EUSCO is linked to many of these organizations by diverse ways, material links, organizational links, such as being part of a committee, a steering committee. I will explain later, but the EUSCO has a lot of links with organizations from these three components, and also with the specifically Basque language-oriented organizations. Why is it important? We think that this ecosystem of organization allowed the construction of a social trust and of readiness to act around the EUSCO. Simian already wrote that money is a matter of trust, and then Aglietta and Orléans detail like three forms of trust, and we would like to insist in the ethical trust that refers to the common values and norms that can be shared in a territory. We can assume that the existence of a sense of trust based on shared values and strong social cohesion at the local level can be a key factor in the success of the EUSCO. So the first hypothesis would be that the EUSCO has been able to benefit from the existence of an ethical trust previously established on the territory, based on these different components that we see. The other idea is that this militant history led to an accumulation of militant capital through various mobilizations that were previous to the EUSCO. This militant capital refers to a capacity to activate pre-existing networks around a new project, and it refers also to techniques, know-hows, and incorporated disposition to act and to mobilize. So the second hypothesis would be that the EUSCO has been able to benefit from the existence of a militant capital imported from what we call the BC method, that are organizational, methodical, and principled, organizational techniques, methods, and principles that BC has implemented in many sectors. The BC method is organized around the idea of pragmatism, radicalism, and pragmatism, and we find it also in the EUSCO model. For example, any professional can enter the network, but without being ethical. But the idea is any professional who enters the network must fulfill some challenges toward transition. So it's progress for all, and the idea of the EUSCO is not like gathering virtuous professionals from the beginning. The second factor would be a specific organizational model. The first idea is that from the beginning, the EUSCO has been able to involve the members. During the conception of the project, they organized a session of conferences to explain the project and make people give feedback in order to take decisions, to make decisions. Just one example, when they choose the name of the EUSCO, they organized a public votation, and hundreds of names were proposed. Then people voted, and the name EUSCO was chosen. This is a picture of this this process of votation. This involvement can be found also in the governance structure. We have various committees that elect a committee of colleges to take the strategic decision for the EUSCO. All the committees represent the different types of members, and they are elected during the General Assembly. So the organizational governance structure is also made to to represent these members' involvement. The third dimension is that the participatory dimension must be maintained over time. People tend to get tired of mobilization. So the EUSCO tries to regularly organize popular events such as EUSCO Eguna, which is the EUSCO Day, or EUSCO Week, in order to mobilize people, to gather them into a celebration and to anchor the EUSCO in the calendar of popular local celebrations. So the further hypothesis would be that the members' involvement has been a key success factor from the beginning, and that Euskal Moneta, through the organizational model, seeks to ensure this high level of participation. Second dimension of the organizational model is the professionalization of Euskal Moneta. From the beginning, the team has been professionalized. Even before the money was launched, there had 5 workers. We can see the model of the militant employee in the Euskal Moneta structure. That means that they seek to recruit people that first involve as unpaid volunteers and workers who could be constantly in the structure working all day long and more. So it's like a real commitment. Euskal Moneta also promotes an entrepreneurial approach. That means that they try to create positions that can generate income in order to finance themselves. They have a strong focus in extending the professional network, because the professional, they pay contribution to the EUSCO. And this is the model that is supposed to finance the employees. We also see a special division of labor. Every employee that is dedicated to extend the professional network has a little part of the territory. So they have this way of extending the network in all their direction in the territory. Third dimension is the partnership with public authorities. The EUSCO has received a support from local authorities from the beginning through financial aid, and then through a more active involvement with nowadays 19 municipalities that are members of the EUSCO network. This municipality gather a third part of all the population of the territory. The community, the Basque Country agglomeration community, also joined the EUSCO, and this agglomeration community gather all the municipalities of the territory. This support contributes to the development of the EUSCO through the use of local currency for local public services such as swimming pool, and also for local authority expenditures. I just finished with the presentation.
Okay, we have the last argument.
Yes, the last argument is that digitization has played a special role in the development of the EUSCO. It was online EUSCO account and EUSCO card. It was an early dynamic. From the first day, a lot of accounts were created, and now more than more than 50% of the users have an EUSCO account, and we think that we think that the digitization allowed the EUSCO to extend the network of users beyond the militant circles, because it's easier to use a card. They communicate a lot around the digitization, so the point is now reaching people that would not be interested by just paper local currency.
Thank you. 10 minutes for discussion, please. Can you introduce?
Okay, I'm Marcus Pets. I come from the Vascular University. So my first thought would be, would this work in Wales? Would it work in Brittany, where you also have a strong nationalist tendency that's grown recently, within the last decade? Is it a potential technology there? And also, since the Basque area, you talked about things being just the Basque area of France, what about the Basque area that's in Spain?
For the first question, for what I know, there are several local currencies in Brittany, in these different places of Brittany, and then little territories. So I don't exactly know why there is not, there was not in the first place general Brittany local currency, and why people chose to develop little currencies in little parts of Brittany. I think there is a project of unifying different currencies, or also to make bridges between them, so they could convert one local currency of Brittany with another one. But from the beginning it was different, because the EUSCO started from scratch, choosing to make the Basque Country the pertinent territory. And in Brittany it seems to have been different with many projects. And for what regards to the Spanish part of the Basque Country, from the beginning the EUSCO leaders had explained that in the project there is the idea of extending it to the south part, so to the southern part, the Spanish part of the Basque Country. They decided first to implement the EUSCO card and the digital money, but I don't think the idea of extending to the south has been abandoned. It's just not yet.
Didn't happen yet.
It didn't happen yet. It's not planned short term, but I think the idea.
They consider that they have to be strong in France or in northern Basque Country before to go to the south.
It's a process.
Please.
Yes, could you tell us, Rolf Schröder, my name, from Germany, could you tell us a bit about the social structure of participants? You mentioned that the digitization helps to bring it out of the small circles of militants. Is it really broadly anchored in the society? How is it with elderly people or with conservative people? Are they participating, or do you see that as a potential? Or what do people in this area think about it who are not part of this Basque population? Perhaps a few remarks.
We can consider there is around 1% of the total population of the territories that is member of the EUSCO. So in some way it can be considered as a lot, in another way it's 1%. For extending the network, I think they use a lot of communication tools and a lot of different arguments in order to try to reach different kinds of people. The ecological argument, the Basque language argument, the promoting your local association argument, because there are different ways you can convince people. We don't have statistical data about conservative people using the EUSCO or old people using the EUSCO. I don't think we can discuss that statistically. But what I see is that in the Basque Country, For example, the language is a trans-partisan issue. So people from the left wing, people from the right wing could discuss together and could agree on defending the Basque language. The same happens with the local economy. So we can imagine that with some kind of arguments focusing, for example, in the defense of the Basque language, the EUSCO can reach people that are not really like alter globalization, left-wing militants.
Yeah, quick question. Also on this one, sorry, Shashina Gomez from, I don't know, Argentina and the Netherlands, something like that. The fact that two things happen at the same time doesn't necessarily mean that there is a causality between them. Yeah, so I understand the argument that new transactions happened when the possibility of digitization came in, but that doesn't mean that it's the reason why there has been this big expansion. So perhaps you can expand on the slides that you have left unfinished and tell us why you think that digitization was actually the reason why this expansion happened. Why there is causality, yeah? I see the expansion. My question is on the causality.
Yes. Okay. What we know is that the digitization allowed a big increase in the money supply. This is obvious in some way because the digitization, the fact that you hold an online EUSCO account make you convert automatically, and it's mandatory, make you convert a certain amount of euros to EUSCOs every month. So the money supply is increasing because the online account holders, they have to convert every month.
How much?
Minimum 20.
20 euros per month.
Yes. Now, this doesn't explain the increase in the number of members. That's your question, right?
Both transactions members, yeah.
The monthly, the money supply is it's just the automatic change can explain it. But in the members, it's hypothesis we have. We think that, and this is the master work. The master of Nicolas Piriou, he made his master degree about the impacts of digitization, and he shows that people prefer using digital money because they are used to use the credit card every day, and they see the EUSCO card as an upgrade, a technical upgrade to the EUSCO to reach that certain commodity, certain facility of use. I also think that the fact that the communication and the organization of events to promoting the online account helped a lot in reaching other people.
Maybe the last question. But you know, in France we use the credit card to pay for everything, even for €1 or less than €1.
Do you think that the EUSCO could be seen as a separatist monetary creation, and thus could have an impact on the national sovereignty, and thus strengthen the central power of the European Union? Because you said that the first wave of the EUSCO was based on separatist nationalist movement, and I was wondering if this could be used by European Union to strengthen the central power by actually impacting the national sovereignty of France by increasing separatist movement.
Well, I think when I showed the first wave, it was a wave of it was the first wave that abandoned in some way the separatist full idea and that transferred it to the economic dimension, trying just to reach like a local development, a local endogenous development. Now the separatism in the Basque Country has declined strongly in the last decades. They abandoned the army.
The armed
Fight. So I think a lot of monetary issues has to deal with sovereignty and an idea of national belonging. But in the case of the Eusko, we can't really talk about separation because they don't insist on that point. It's more about strengthening local belonging, strengthening the practice of the language. That's very important. And I couldn't say about the European institution really.
Okay, so the discussion is finished. Fabienne, which was also a contributor to the first paper, will now present the new paper. During the technical change, maybe we can have the last question with a short response, which is a very, very short question.
There's one question. I'm from the Unterguckenberg Institute in Austria, and we are from the Virgil Freigeld historically, but we also look on all those active movements and active complementary systems that are out there. One question about the usage. You showed those wafers of usage. What are the three products or product categories that are the most used one, or what is bought and sold mostly? So the three products or three categories that make a lot of the percentage of usage.
I don't have the data.
Any idea? Is it more the agricultural part? Is it more the services? Is it more? So
what we see that in the city, in the main cities, Bayonne and around Bayonne, in the beginning, I think the extension of the professional network was very centered in bars, restaurants, food services, and so on. And the Euskal Moneta is making a real effort in the last years to diversify the businesses and the professional network. So now you have pharmacies, physicians, a lot of the agricultural network is strong too, but they try to reach all the sectors of the economy, except from supermarkets and industrial agriculture. But they try not to be focused on the alternative medicines and organic shops, and trying to have businesses that can fit with most of the consumers.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Matilda. Now, Adil Pinos, the second paper on CSR.
Good afternoon, I'm Fabienne Pinos. I'm PhD in economics, and I teach management sciences in the French Basque Country in Bayonne. My work as a researcher focuses on social innovation and social impact evaluation. Since September 2018, I have been collaborating with other researchers from Nouvelle-Aquitaine in the framework of the Molona project funded by the Nouvelle-Aquitaine region administration. And this project aims to study the local currencies of Nouvelle-Aquitaine. And among these currencies, studying more specifically Eusko, which is the French Basque Country social local currency, as you have understood before. So this year, RAMICS Congress is about going digital. So as blockchain is seen as an major financial innovation for the years to come, I thought it was appropriate to try to analyze how blockchain could be a key resource in the value creation process of a local social currency. So my communication aims first to analyze the potential contributions of blockchain for local currencies, then to compare these contributions to the key resources and activities identified in the study of the value creation process of Yushko, which is the first European currency in circulation since the end of 2018. So I will begin by a short presentation of the context of my research and of the methodology adopted. Then I will continue with a summary of the results obtained, first regarding the potential contributions of the blockchain for local currencies, and in the second part regarding the key resources and key activities in the process of value creation of a complementary social and local currency. Finally, I will try to share with you the conclusions we can draw from these results. If we focus on the main features of the current context, we can observe that blockchain generates strong interest from financial institutions. The financial industry expects this new technology to provide greater security, lower costs, and better control of error risk. We can also observe that literature shows fundamental opposition in the motivation behind the creation of virtual currencies versus local currencies. But it also appears that the technologies underlying current virtual currencies can be used for other purposes than purely commercial or speculative ones. That was proven by Lee in 2015 and by Gladden in 2015 too. For example, the open source ComChain, which is a software launched at the end of 2017 and developed by Monelement, which is a Swiss local currency, is based on blockchain technology, and it is designed to serve a local currency. These observations are linked to technology. That means to tools for initiatives that may have different goals. Regarding local currencies, we can note that the first European local currency, the Yushko in the French Basque Country, carries ambitious goals. Indeed, the non-profit organization Escual Moneta assigns strong ambitions to the Yushko, as the relocation of the economy, the defense and the promotion of the Basque language, as my colleague said before, and the strengthening of ecological and solidarity practices and also social cohesion. This initiative encourages new forms of cooperation for the benefit of societal causes and aims to create value that can be described as public value in the Moore definition of 1995. We can say that Escual Moneta is engaged in a process of creating public value. From these previous observations, we can therefore question ourselves about the capacity of the blockchain to be a key resource in the value creation process of a local currency. To answer this question, we've implemented the following methodology. First, a documentary analysis with the analysis of the content of websites, the content of press articles, but also the content of interviews with elected people. And in the second part of the process of this research, interviews and also working sessions with the general manager of Escual Moneta, and this provided the necessary materials to formalize Escual Moneta business model and analyze its positioning with regard to digital solutions. So, if we go to the main results, literature shows us that the value proposition of local currencies is embodied in three dimensions. First, a feeling of belonging. Second, empowerment. And the third, social transformation. But what we can see in real life is that the economic model of scale change and sometimes even just sustainability is difficult to define and implement for a social local currency. Indeed, for local social currency, the equation is really complex to solve. In order to produce visible or measurable effects, the number of transactions in local currency must be significant. The number of users and the speed of circulation of the currency are key elements of impact production. So to succeed, it would be a matter of entering a virtuous circle in which money circulates in satisfactory quantity, in satisfactory speed, to produce measurable impacts, and then highlighting these impacts to recruit new members, obtain subsidies, etc. However, reaching a significant threshold of transaction requires an initial cost that few organizations can afford. In this context, digital deployment is not only a major challenge for local communities in order to facilitate their dissemination, increase their speed of circulation, evaluate the activity, but also a challenge due to the human and financial needs involved. To face this challenge, several technical choices are available to local currencies. And among them, we find the blockchain technology. This technology presents advantages and disadvantages. This is just a synthesis of the main results I described in the world communication. This table summarizes these main results from a literature review as well as from the documentary analysis. The documentary analysis was based on different experimentations. Mon-Element, the Swiss local currency that exists as a cryptocurrency since 2017. The second one is the Impact Coin. It's a Canadian experimentation that defined itself as, I will read because it's their definition, the first stable cryptocurrency designed to support the growth of the impact economy by promoting loyalty, rewarding collaboration, and encouraging responsible purchasing. So this is the second experimentation I worked on. And the third is named COL, which is a French initiative that defines itself as a decentralized ecosystem that measures and values behavior in order to bring the impact economy into a new era. So, big ambition. If we list the main advantages, we can find first democratically established rules and the confidence improved, also more security in transactions, and blockchain permits is a multifunctional support. That means that it permits as well guaranteed currency and mutual credit. It permits to value the work of volunteers. It can permit an impact measurement, and it also is seen as a participatory investment platform. On the other side, as disadvantages, we find high on-track costs for project leaders, costs in assets, but also human costs. And maybe the main disadvantage is, for the moment, no evidence of the sustainability of the emerging solutions and unbalanced business models at times. If the disadvantages identified are real, it should be noted that the listed advantages remain potential as long as no local currency has empirically demonstrated them all at times. At this stage, all observations highlight rather a slow implementation, a low transparency of the models under test, and a non-provided proof of their entire technical efficiency. In this context, it seems to us unlikely to compare in the second part the arguments put forward by the defender of blockchain support with the positioning of Ashkwan Moneta manager which manage the Ashko. According to the documentary study and the interviews conducted, it appears that the diffusion of the Ashko aims to the creation of public value at various scales, individual, collective and societal. The value proposition takes different forms depending on the stakeholder involved. Here, the main points are the following. For individual members, the expected value can be defined as a capacity for expression and action, a form of empowerment in favor of a societal model in accordance with one's convictions. For the recruited companies, it's essentially a differentiation tool. For non-profit organizations, they can expect donations, visibility, they can expect to enter a community and strengthen their network. And for local authorities, public sector, it's an opportunity to show solidarity with and also concretely participate to an initiative that aims at a collective local benefit. But to implement all these value propositions and produce public value, Ashkwan Moneta must rely on key resources and key activities. To sustain these essential activities, Ashkwan Moneta must be able to rely on key partners and resources. Sorry. I wanted to talk about main activity. Yes. So when we work on the I will talk about activities first and then on key partners.
Just to be sure, Ashkwan Moneta is the association which manages the ASCO. So ASCO is money, and currency, and
Ashkwan Moneta is the non-profit association which manage all the processes. So when we work on the business model with Ashkwan Moneta, these three activities appear to be the essential ones. The first, of course, issuing and making money available for users. The second is the solicitation of professionals or acceptors, and the third is communication with individuals. For Ashkwan Moneta Managing Director, the organization must first and foremost master the processes of issuing and making money available for users, both in paper version and in its digital version. Indeed, Ashkwan Moneta's strategy is based on both support in accordance with its founding philosophy of openness and inclusion. To date, Ashkwan Moneta is convinced that it is necessary to offer the two means of payment to members and to make them easy to use, as easy as if they were using traditional means of payment. The main aim here is to produce a situation where there is, and I will use the word of Ashkwan Moneta Managing Director, where there is no other obstacle for people than to want to commit themselves. Secondly, there is the solicitation of professionals or acceptors, so that they grow in number, but also in the variety of products and services offered. Ashkwan Moneta needs to recruit people to set up local networks so that B2C acceptors can find ways to use their Ashko in B2B transactions. And also communication with individuals were spontaneously mentioned as a key activity. Making the tool accessible, pleasant and practical is the first goal for Ashkwan Moneta. So To sustain these essential activities, École Monétaire must be able to rely on key partners and resources, to recruit volunteers and members to communicate with individual users. École Monétaire has relied since its creation on non-profit organizations historically positioned in the defense of territorial values and already recognized for their actions. From the very beginning, it was a question of gradually building trust and legitimacy. Here, trust has been based on shared values, pedagogy, and interpersonal relationships, regardless of any technology. This empirical observation is consistent with the results of Manas and Boscadat in 2017, for whom technological solutionism, which would like to establish trust by algorithm without social or legal anchoring, is illusory. With regard to the key activity, which is issuing and putting into circulation paper ECHCO, École Monétaire benefits from the commitments of retailers who act as exchange offices. We note that when launching local currencies such as ECHCO, as well as in its current development phase, the key resources are essentially human. Ability to create link between people, time made available and given to the project, technical skill. Without major technological innovation, École Monétaire has demonstrated a high degree of autonomy in its ability to conceptualize an alternative to the dominant system and to unite people and organizations around the value already anchored in the vast non-profit network. As early as 2015, École Monétaire was looking into the different technologies available, resulting in a fast and effective solution to digitalize. 4 criteria guided École Monétaire team choice. The first was to be independent and be able to master their technical choices, their technical solutions. The second one was always facilitate the use of ECHCO for people, and they choose a solution that provided slow and progressive changes in user behavior, and they have always been careful with the adaptation to the needs. All this was in order to integrate the greatest number of people. And with these main criteria, they could see no added value in blockchain. So despite the advantages put forward by the financial industry and by some proposals inside the social economy like Element, Impact Coin or Point, the empirical study conducted with École Monétaire shows that various factors such as non-demonstrated reliability or the difficulty of being technically independent initially excluded the adoption of this technology. The lack of transparency on ongoing experiments and the lack of evidence of competitive advantages are still obstacles today. In addition, the adoption of a local currency by the consumers is already a matter of accepting an innovation and integrating it into their practices and habits, a change that requires specific attention and time. École Monétaire prefers to facilitate this transition by adapting the technologies already valued by most people rather than imposing an emerging technology at this stage. The interesting point is that it isn't a dogmatic but a strategic posture. They don't refuse blockchain because they think they could be assimilated to cryptocurrencies and generate mistrust. They just refuse blockchain at this stage because they are convinced it is inadequate to maintain a balanced business model. It's difficult to make a dogmatic posture change. Instead, strategic posture may evolve in time. So this positioning may change in 4 or 5 years, or not. It will depend on the ability of blockchain technology to meet the needs and also to meet the know-how of the structures that manage the local currencies. evolution over time should be observed to see when, how, and why blockchain technology could become of strategic interest for the development of local or other local communities. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Fabien. So, then discussion. Yes.
Thank you very much for the very good analysis for the blockchain application. Sorry. Thank you very much for the very good presentation for the blockchain application. I'm just concerned. I think the biggest merit of the blockchain application must be the reliable ledger system. So it can be help the operation of the local currency. But I think the biggest problem is you said blockchain is a democratic system, but I think once in blockchain, once the rule is set, the rule is just going. So it's no democratic way to change the rule. So what do you think about that problem?
Find the references that with blockchain there are several ways to use it. You can use it as the Bitcoin uses, but you can also have hybrid blockchain, where you can organize democratically democratic rules, and so it's a mix of the confidence, the trust you can have in the blockchain, and some rules of we can be decided by a collective. So I just wanted, because I can't remember the name, and I give you the reference. In 2015, it specified the context in which a blockchain has added value, and we can find different and also switches in 2015, and you'll find it in my communication. All the way to have added value if we are with your initial needs, and so to adapt to local currency and to integrate these democratic rules, it's a hybrid system that can be used.
I think one project called Substrate is a module-style blockchain, so it can be changed the rule. So I just want to suggest to it's just newly developing system. So I just suggest to improve that system by the power of this community, so that it can help the democratic to establish the democratic blockchain system. It's just my idea.
Other questions?
Yeah, I think that, my question comes exactly after this. And in a certain way, I would like to understand from you, what do you mean when you speak of democratic rules? Because in a certain way, blockchain are not democratic by definition, in the sense that it is a technological product which can be managed only by people with an expertise in digitalization. So if you ask me, and I have a certain knowledge of what is a blockchain, would you prefer blockchain A or blockchain B, like in a democratic referendum? Do you think that common people could actually understand the difference? No, we have to admit that blockchain is a very sophisticated technological instrument that we can use for it. It requires some sort of political intervention in order to make it understandable to other people, to common people. And this is the problem that you probably underline at the end of your presentation, that in the social usage of money, people do not really see the difference of using token or a digital application, because which is the added value in that sense. Then, of course, you could explain that we have a reduction of cost, it is more efficient, you have the transparency, you can follow the transaction. But to say that blockchain is democratic sounds to me as a strong contradiction at this point of our technological education.
I may have, my English is not really fluent, so I may have don't give the good arguments, but I agree with you that blockchain is like a black hole for most people.
Yeah.
What I wanted to try to explain before is that, for example, with a non-profit organization in which you have people sufficiently technically involved in the knowledge of blockchain, and where we have steering committees and democratic processes with all members, you can decide rules together.
So it's in the managing committee.
Or with members, we can.
Yeah, in the small circle of.
And then put these rules inside the hybrid process.
Question?
I was just going to suggest that you maybe differentiate blockchain versus smart contract. So we have a smart contract that can have staking and voting and lots of systems. It's a Solidity piece of code, and that can be deployed on any blockchain. We can use many blockchains. And that's very distinct. And when you're looking at the blockchain space, I'm mostly excited about communication between blockchains and pushing the blockchain to the application level. And this is what these guys at Holochain are doing now, where the blockchain is out here at the application level, but there's a protocol that connects them and allows these applications to synchronize. So it's kind of like blockchains of blockchains. But I think the discussion around, for me, it's efficient to use the blockchain we're using right now because it's super cheap and fast, but at scale we will probably ramp up our own, and we would want to be able to connect to lots of other blockchains. But then it's the smart contracts themselves that are really much more about creating democracy on our side.
Okay. So, thank you, Fabian. We are in the last presentation.
I'll just start. Because I want to. Hi everybody, my name is Gerald Wheatley. I work on Calgary Dollars. We'll get the presentation up here right away. This paper is comparing municipal complementary currencies in Barcelona, one that was just launched this summer, with Calgary Dollars, where I'm from, in the western part of Canada. I wanted to get a sense of, has anybody had a chance to read the paper yet? No? Okay, so this information is superficial, obviously, compared to the paper, and so I will spend a bit more time kind of giving you context, but because time is short, there's lots more. We've been doing almost 15 years of outcome measurements on Calgary Dollars, and so there's some information that you can look to there if you're interested in that. Yeah. So it's largely a tale of two cities because Barcelona and Calgary are so different in so many ways, and our currencies are very different in many ways. the reason that the paper is combined is because and Andrea is here, just wave if you could. So Andrea was our first tech contact with Ubiquit, for which we have a contract working on Cyclos, on the Cyclos platform. Cyclos is one of the things that we share between Billawatt and Calgary dollars. Outside of that, we don't share too much in terms of our cities and cultures and our economies and things. So it was at the last RAMICS conference that Andreu and my co-worker first connected. So we looked at various options and ended up working together with Ubiquit. So starting with Billawatt, in Viladecans, one of the municipalities in the Barcelona area, a municipally issued digital complementary currency to incentivize environmental choices by citizens. So that just launched this summer, but the strategy is that if you or I were to need to buy a new washing machine, you would go to a store, you can buy an energy efficient one or a non-energy efficient one. If you choose the environmental option, the government gives you a credit in the complementary currency, and secondarily, they issue a reputational credit to your account. So you get two different types of credits. So it's very much an environmental motivation in that currency, whereas Calgary dollars was founded from a notice of motion, a unanimous support from our city council in the year 2000 to do two different things, and environment wasn't one of those things. The two things were small business support and small business development, and then supports to vulnerable populations. So those vulnerable populations being older Calgarians, new to the city, lower income, with differing abilities. So that's been a theme for our development, was to balance between both supporting vulnerable populations and then also developing small business. There's definitely a small business component to Billawatt, but the primary aspect is around that environmental development. The economies are very different between the two cities. So Calgary is an oil and gas city with a high income. It has the largest per capita millionaires in our country because of the oil and gas sector. Calgary dollars started in 1996, and it's had municipal funding for about 20 years, and that's been based on largely on that boom. Ironically, it's not counter-cyclical in the complementary currency norm. It's benefited from prosperity that allows for funding for creativity. That's made it hard. I did research work and interviews in Ithaca, New York, and in another currency in Western Canada where they were economically depressed, and so there was larger motivations for the complementary currencies there. That's more of a dynamic in Viladecans with less prosperity than in Calgary, I believe. So again, kind of differing in those models. Another central difference between the currencies is that the Billawatt is euro-backed and the Calgary dollars is not backed and not redeemable for any national currencies. So again, quite a major difference in the way that the currency is put into circulation and taken out of circulation. So the big similarity is the use of the digital platform. That too, we're not sure the future. There's many changes both that Ubiquit and Cyclos have in the future that may see it evolve quite drastically from the way it looks currently. This is a graphic that's in the paper, so I won't spend too much time on it. This is the interface between the electronic money and the local currency, and the way it can come in and go out of circulation. I think I'm just going to leave that in the interest of time. There's more of a description. And with Andrea here, we can, I've got just some pins and stickers and cards and things for Calgary dollars there, and Andrea's here as well. So you can, if you want to follow up with one or one particular, you can talk to both of us. Again, this is the model that allows municipal governments to see that this is a backed currency that is stable and can be moving in and out of the local currency economy in a managed fashion. So these were over the last 3 years after we decided, it was about 4 years ago, we decided for Calgary dollars to go to add a digital platform. We still have our printed currency. I can show you that if you want. So we worked quite a bit with Ithacash and their connections with Bancor, Spice in the UK. Cochrane Dollars is another one in Alberta that was started by their municipal government. Looking into various platforms that could be potential. The choice for Sequos was, in spite of it being not very sexy and not super fun, it was really stable and it was free for us to have access. And I'm here to thank Ubiquit, who also cut their fees in half because we're a nonprofit, and so they were able to reduce their rates quite drastically. So it was a pretty pragmatic thing to have something that works, has been working for many different systems that we can get affordably. It was very much, you know, the two birds in the bush, they look so great, but the bird in the hand was the one that we wanted to use. This is a 30-second little explainer video. We'll see if it works. The idea of just making very, nah, it's not going to go. If you Google Calgary dollars, you can see that. It's an animated video to try and make it very intelligible to people. This is the website, what the website looks like. We're likely to continue. Sequos has many options, point of sale and QR codes and SMS text payments, none of which we ended up using, and we're actually going to take more of the features off of this, because the research after, we launched our digital, by the way, our digital platform December 7th last year, so after 6 months in getting feedback from people, realizing that it's even though we took so many features out, it's still too complicated, and we're being told by marketing and tech people to simplify it even further. But that's what it looks like. With the marketplace, searchable advertisements, the app, similarly, we're going to make it even more simple than it is now, but really designed to be very simple interface. It's nice that it's on Android and Apple. We're finding surprising low income and non-English speaking users are just as likely to say they'll only use the app as they say that they can't use it. And they tend to say one or the other. They either say, there's no way I'm going to use it, or that's the only thing I'm going to use. So having it is advantageous. There's definitely people who don't have home phones, don't have home internet. They have a couple of computers that don't work because people have given them the computers and they're broken or whatever, so they're on their phone all the time. So we're certainly learning as we go. I'm gonna skip this. We all know about the global economy and why we're here. This is a presentation that I also give to the tech community and potential social partners, nonprofit, government. There is an awareness of the fragility in Canada. This is the kind of news that's coming up. The personal debt is very large, about 170% of annual income now in Canada. We survived the major global downturn. by bailing out the banks, and our citizens have just kept getting cheap loans. And so you can see debt to income in Canada is still very, very high. And so that's an entry point for public stakeholders. So in affordable housing and in social work, in preventative health, politicians see the risks of where we're at, and has been quite an opportunity. It's certainly not the majority, say, of politicians, but those who analyze the economy this way are very passionate about it. And that's included number of our city councillors, one of whom went on to be the finance minister for our province, who was advancing, and our mayor, who have a social analysis with this kind of global economics perspective, that they are advocates. These are a few of the stats from our outcomes. Calgary Dollars has never delivered as good outcomes on the economic capital side as it has on the social capital side. The social capital side is the main benefit. We're funded by the City of Calgary. Calgary Dollars is a program of the City of Calgary under Family and Community Support Services. That's where the funding comes from, although we also have this mandate for business development, but they don't give us any money to develop business. So these social outcomes are the things that are valued. 79% saying they're encouraged to buy more locally. 48% agreeing that they're more able to live within their means. 54% saying they worry less about money as a result of being involved in the program. I'll tell you honestly that this is quite psychological. It's that people feel they have options, then they feel better. They feel more optimistic about their life. It's not because we're delivering thousands of dollars of extra income. It's because they don't feel maybe quite so trapped. And they report things like knowing more about what's going on in their community. And I don't believe they know much about what's going on in their community for the most part, but they started out with almost nothing, not knowing their neighbors, not knowing any agencies, and they met one or two, and so they say, I learned more. So it's quite incremental. 67% established relationships of trust for future negotiations as a result of Calgary Dollars. 73% saying that they have someone to help them as a result of their involvement in Calgary Dollars. And 70% saying that it's increased their involvement in community. These are the numbers that have made allies out of our community economic development workers, because they're already putting a lot of money into some other tools that they're not seeing such great results. We don't have to be perfect, we just have to be better than their options. And so it's an opportunity. Cochrane Dollars, we worked with them, that's a city of about 500,000 people, about an hour away. It was started by their community economic development staff in conjunction with the local bank. You buy these Cochrane Dollars. They made it a printed currency, which is very difficult in economic development to prove the economic benefits and how many transactions and the value. And so I asked them, 2 years later, has that been a problem for them? And they said no, because they don't have to prove the success of Cochrane Dollars, because all their other marketing campaigns were such a failure previous that the city council just loves it, because it's something that people are proud of, right? That it gives profile, and they just had to be better than the next worst option. And complementary currency definitely has a potential. I've been so surprised with the digital side of it. When we started conversations with affordable housing agencies, for example, I put on, do you want to have printed currencies only? Do you want to have digital currencies only? Do you want to have both? They all want, and including the business networks, they only wanted the digital ones. I don't really know why that. There's a multiplicity of factors. This is called a program logic model. So you guys probably use this for your funders. Short-term to long-term outcomes. That's how much time I'm going to spend on that one. You can have a look at it. We do lots of this. profiles of our members, people that have either earned lots of Calgary dollars or made big changes as a result. These are some of our users. These are small business owners, farms, taxi drivers, coffee shop owners. This paper is around the relationships with the municipal governments. So in Calgary, as I said, we're a contractor to the city of Calgary. Out of that, over years, having the stability of a couple of different funding sources, we have between about $60,000 and $90,000 Canadian operating budget each year. So it's like one full-time staff, but it's pretty stable. We are on 3-year funding with our city, and we have multi-year funding that also contributes. So we've been able to just chip away. So we've got transit tickets. Businesses can pay 50% of their business license fees. There's various, now we have 5 affordable housing agencies. So this is our human services minister with 2 anti-racist activists and anti-poverty activists who just received grants in complementary currency, and a number of the community agencies that have put our currency into place. This was our launch of our digital currency. This is our provincial finance minister. His name is Joe Ceci. And so we made our inaugural transaction in a coffee shop that accepts Calgary dollars. And the first Calgary dollars transaction was paying for coffee for all the customers. So we called it Joe buying Joe, because Joe is the slang for coffee. So Joe buys Joe. So that got some TV coverage, lots of profile with other municipalities, and last year was also, and I worked with Andrea and Ubiquit on this as well. These are affordable housing agencies that all started accepting Calgary dollars. They agreed to accept 5,000 in the year, 5,000 Calgary dollars for rent or for groceries that they provide to their residents. So we put 5,000 Calgary dollars in their account, and they're about on average, they're about halfway through that. They issue it out to their residents to come to community meetings or to go to a resource fair or to staff a kids program, and then those residents can pay part of their rent. It's usually about $100, up to $100 a month of their rent that they can pay. And then we have a Take Action grant program. This has been an important aspect that we built into the digital platform as well. So we give out, we've given out about 127 last year, so 138 grants of about $2,000, half in federal currency, half in Calgary dollars. The federal currency comes from our local foundation. Again, there's a lot of prosperity, so they have a lot of money. They're willing to match dollar for dollar. The businesses that accept Calgary dollars, the agencies, our folk festival, outdoor gear store, grocery store, they contribute. And all the city money from business license fees, transit tickets, all those Calgary dollars get pooled together. They can get tax receipts for those donations, and then they get matched dollar for dollar, and then they get given out in $2,000 grants to activist projects. And my board, I work for a charity, my board wants to be activists. So we support anti-racist work, indigenous work, climate change work with small grants. Okay. And thank you to Mokoto and all the organizers for putting this on. That's good job. It took me 23.5 hours to get here from my home. Six hours in the Narita airport with 5,000 other people standing around. So it's very, very satisfying to be here.
Okay. Any questions to these presentations? So we have now some information about the Calgary dollars, but quite no information about the Catalan, the experience in Catalonia.
I'm sorry I only gave a brief overview. There is more information in the paper, but also that just launched. It's the one that Ubiquit is using the same platform, and they really want to share that information. But in terms of outcomes, there aren't outcomes yet.
Heinz Hafner from the Gutenberg Institute again. One question about the maturity of your currency. It's running now as a project for a longer time. So how has the membership structure changed, or the usage of the money? Are there waves to see coming and going in means of different kind of people, or newcomers start with something and then they are changing, or?
There is quite a bit of turnover in the whole. I started with this in '96, and there's been there's a few people. We had an event the Friday before I left, and there was 3 or 4 people from 15 years ago that were there, but quite a bit of turnover. When we've had all the affordable housing partners, that's new, and so we get a lot of new users as a result of that. I would say overall though, I spend almost all my time trying to find TV coverage or marketing or other resources to grow it. We are inconsequential in the cities. Our city's municipal budget is about $4 billion. We're maybe turning over at the most $250,000 a year in Calgary dollars, and I think many years a lot less than that. So it's all just trying to grow it and reach new
Don't
people.
misunderstand the question. It's not about the amount of money, because we know as an institute it's not the amount of money that makes it running.
Yeah.
It's the passion in between.
You're right. And when we've had people that are resident liaisons in affordable housing who think that Calgary Dollars is the best thing that they've ever, in their career, it's the best thing they've ever done, because residents are getting to know each other, even though, out of a building that has 400 units in it, there might be 80 that are involved, So yeah, there's definitely a bit of that argument that it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be better than all the other things they're wasting money on.
You told us before that this currency enjoys a certain degree of stability. It is a stable money.
Subsidy?
No, stability.
Stability.
How?
So we decided in our original committee to have no interchangeability, formal interchangeability with Canadian dollars. And so there isn't an expectation from users that they can cash them in. And we focused on people, when you take out a Calgary Dollars ad, you get 5 Calgary Dollars in your account. If you're a business, you get 100. If you're a business, you have the advantage that you can issue 10% rewards to a customer that pays in Canadian dollars. They can get 10% Calgary Dollars as a customer reward. So those are some of the factors in the stability. The other big factor in the stability is that we only require that they take any one business or individual except 10% as a minimum, and that they can adjust it at any given time. So if a business starts earning too much, they can reduce it, and and providing a lot of pressure release. Like Paul Glover in Ithaca used to say he was the shiatsu masseuse for the Ithaca hours, because he would go around and clear blockages of energy talking to businesses that were accumulating too much. So we encourage businesses to adjust the percentage that they take, and the Take Action Grants is a big one, where some businesses will earn more, and then they say, oh, I can get a tax receipt and I can get some good profile out of this, so I'll contribute a couple thousand Calgary dollars a year to the tag. So trying to get a lot of different options for people to make that stability happen.
How do you cover your cost for the network expansion, the cost of the application and all that? Because you said that your revenue model was mostly based on public funding, or do you have any other stuff?
So like the $60,000 a year we get is government funding. I think the government is we've gone through multiple kind of experiments. The government funding and the grant funding, although I'd love to put that in my past, it's a lot of what I'm doing. But in this platform, we added a 0.5% transaction fee into transactions as a revenue stream. I've been taking 2.5% of my salary in Calgary dollars for 15 years, and my agency needs to earn Calgary dollars to pay my salary, right? And so there's a transaction fee, that's a piece of it. each of we were able to get funding support. Each of those housing agencies paid $5,000 to get a subnetwork made for them. The business community, we have 15 business communities. One of them paid us $8,000 to build their subnetwork. I just put in a couple $100,000 application to build subnetworks. We have 130 community associations. So when you walk into a community, the map shows you the businesses and the individuals that accept Calgary dollars around you. Community associations, in Canada, it's 14% of the population. Have any connection to their community association? So the community associations are trying to find better ways to reach citizens. That's an answer to that question. Money from all different directions.
All right, so you have a hybrid revenue model based on public funding, transaction fee, and let's say consultancy.
And fee for service. Like I've been watching Bristol's evolution. We were talking about that. We do promotional contracts. So you'll see on social media, we just did one at a pub where local tap house taps into local currency, right? And then we get the TV out there, and they get profile for the business, and we do packages to promote the business, flyering in their neighborhood, social media campaigns, trying to get media cover. Hybrid funding is what I'm referring to. It is just trying to find money in all different, everywhere, to keep it going. Because our problem is nobody knows about it, right? We've got about 1.3 million people, and it's common that people say, I've never heard of it. So that's a big challenge.
Can you pay tax, municipal tax?
No. Businesses can pay their business licenses in 50% Calgary dollars. And so the dollar value of that is not very high. It's like $100 a year for the business out of the $200 bill kind of thing. But the subjective value is huge, because if I go into a business and say you should take Calgary dollars, they have no context. When I say that you can pay your business license fee, they give it credibility. They can't refuse the credibility of that. And all the businesses, as it turns out, they resent paying their fees to the government. So they like us by association. I'm working on the taxes, but that's just chipping away.
And the public transport tickets, yes?
And we have a set number of transit tickets that you can buy for 100% Calgary dollars. We had recreation tickets, but we stopped doing it because it wasn't useful for our users. Yeah.
Okay, last question.
It's taxable income. Yeah, so many of the businesses are involved in corporate barter systems where they pay tax, they have to pay their taxes on the retail price, and they're paying like 7% aside on the transactions in their corporate barter. So the fact that we have 0.5%, they like us. But it's taxable income if it's your profession.
Okay, thank you. The next station will start in less than 15 minutes.